Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money, with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 405 of Screw the Commute podcast. Oh wow, we have a very interesting guest on today. This is Reiko Scott, and I interviewed her dad, David Merriman Scott, a few episodes ago, and I heard him talking about his latest book, Fanocracy, that he wrote with his daughter. And I said, I gotta meet that young lady, because I have been following her dad for, I don't know, whenever that book came out. I was all over it, and I've recommended it literally thousands of times to other people. So I said, hey, let's see if we can get her on here, see what she's up to. So very interesting. She's either a doctor or a med student. I'm not sure at this point, but we'll find out. We'll see what she says from her point of view, which is like 3 times younger than my point of view of what Fanocracy is all about. All right, so hope you didn't miss episode 404. That was Burke Allen. He and I have a West Virginia, or West by God, Virginia, you have to say, connection. And he's got a PR firm out of D.C., and boy, he gave some great tips on PR, who should have it, who should go after it, who should hire an agency, who should do it themselves, things like that. So that was episode 404. Whenever you want to listen to a previous episode, you go to screwthecommute.com, and then the episode number, /404 was Burke, and today is 405 for Reiko Scott. Now, how would you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? Well, if the show's helped you out at all or given you ideas to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. So visit screwthecommute.com and look for a little blue sidebar that says send a voicemail. Click on it, talk into your phone or computer, and tell me how the show's helped you. And hey, also put your website in there so you can get a big shout out on a future episode of Screw the Commute. Now, pick up a copy of our automation ebook. This book has helped me handle up to 150,000 subscribers and 40,000 customers without pulling my hair out. And we actually figured it out. It's one tip in the book has saved me 7.5 million keystrokes. All right, and that's not exaggeration. We estimated it over the years. So check that out at screwthecommute.com/automate free, screwthecommute.com/automate free. And while you're over there, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. All right, folks, I know people are freaking out still, and Reiko here is probably in the midst of it in her medical career of the pandemic and how it's just crushed families and businesses around the world. And I feel for all that pain and suffering, but I have been preaching for 23 years that if you had the skills to make money from home, you wouldn't have to suffer those kinds of things. The schools are open one day and the schools are closed the next day. People had to quit jobs if they even had a job, and they're just killing their family income. So that doesn't happen to me and my students. I've been selling on the commercial internet since there was a commercial internet in 1994, and my students are not worried about this because we all can sell products and services around the world. And so I've been teaching this for 23 years, but I formalized it about 13 years ago in the form of a school. It's the only licensed, dedicated internet marketing school in the country, probably the world. It's licensed to operate by SCHEV, the State Council on Higher Education in Virginia. But you don't have to be in Virginia because it's good quality distance learning. It's not like the 4-year schools that are ripping students off and teaching them how to protest, and then they get out with their MBA and they're competing for jobs at Starbucks. Not like that. And also now all of a sudden they have a distance program, like they put it together in 2 days to try to keep taking money from students. So ours has been operating distance for 13 years, and we know what we're doing. So check that out, imtcva.org. And a little later, I'll tell you how you can get a full scholarship to the school if you're in my mentor program. All right, let's get to the main event. Reiko Scott is a Japanese-American part-time author and full-time emergency medicine physician. She enjoys connecting the, now here's the things, there's very seldom do I read somebody's bio and then don't understand the words in it. So she's going to have to explain some things for me. She enjoys connecting the two through narrative medicine. I know I read in her book a little bit about that, but still didn't understand it. And as well as tearing the two apart through speculative fiction. Now, that's another thing. I have no idea what that means. So she's going to fill us in. Her first nonfiction book, she co-authored with her father, David Merriman Scott, which I just said is a Wall Street Journal bestseller. It's called Fanocracy. Reiko, are you ready to screw?
Woo!
The Commute. Oh, was that how a cosplayer answers me? Is that how?
I don't know. I felt like I needed the enthusiasm.
Oh, Reiko, well, I'm so glad you're here. Like I said, I've been following your dad for years, and of course he sang your praises, and I didn't really have a choice to get you on the show. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, I guess in the bio, you are actually have graduated med school, and you're a physician now?
Yes, I have the MD next to my name now.
So you can get good, well, I was going to say you could get good tables, but there's no restaurants to get them at anymore.
No, not really.
So I want to get into that a little later, but I want to talk about Fanocracy because, like I said, the new rules of marketing and PR was the book. Probably, I don't know if you were even born when that came out. Were you?
I think I was born.
You were? Okay.
Born.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But you're considered a millennial, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I am a millennial.
There you go. So us old geezers, we love to talk to millennials to see what the heck's going on in the world because we don't know anymore.
I mean, now I have to talk to Zoomers. I don't know what's going on anymore.
So what is the progression of millennial, and then what's below that?
Gen Z,
and then below that is what?
I don't know. We call Gen Z Zoomers.
Oh, they're Zoomers. Okay. So,
yeah.
Which is perfect too, because and that Gen Z term was around before they were all on Zoom all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did this collaboration come together? Because your dad has written lots of books and without your help, I guess. But this one, he felt that you would be a great person to help him out on.
Yeah. It came about because he was going to write it anyway. He has in the process of, kicking ideas around before you write a book, just thinking about this as an idea and passing like ideas through me. We were on a car. He was driving me somewhere and we were just talking about these ideas of fandom and connection and what that meant in terms of marketing. And I don't come from a business background, and I never studied business, as clear by my medical trajectory. But
that's probably better off. You're probably better off. Yeah,
exactly. I don't have any preconceptions of what it's supposed to be. But I do have a lot of experience in fandom and being a fan myself. So he was talking about all these things, and we were coming from very different angles. He's a fan of Grateful Dead and old cars, and while I'm going to Comic-Con, cosplaying, and writing fan fiction. So very different, but we found like a core together that was like, oh, there's something here. And my dad started writing a little bit and sent a little bit to me. And I realized when I was reading some of his like early musings that I'm like, I cannot let you write about going to Comic-Con. I just cannot. It hurts my soul. So I was like, I need to write this with you because there's no way you can do it alone. And I think it worked out really well because we have just such different perspectives on.
So you stimulated this? It wasn't him asking you to do it?
No, he didn't ask me to do it. He asked me to read something of his, and I was like, I am going to write this. And he's like, sounds good.
So you basically saved him from himself, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can imagine the young people nowadays reading what older folks are writing without the help of you all. But you brought something up, and I saw a picture of you. And the description of the picture just like your bio on narrative medicine, which we'll get into, speculative fiction. What the heck is that?
Sounded like a different language.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck is this stuff? And but the caption of the picture I saw you in, I couldn't understand one word of it. I have it written down here. It says, "Oh, I understand your name," and it said that you were the person in the center. And then that from that point on, I have no idea what it says. It says, "Dressed as Bad B." Is that one of the three forms of the Morrigan? What is that? Celtic goddess of war in the wicked plus the divine. That's what it said. And I understood the two words. Reiko is in the center of this picture. What the heck is that?
So there was a Comic-Con a few years ago in New York where I went with two of my friends, and we did a cosplay, which is costume play, where you dress up as a character in a book, a movie, comics, TV, and often it's like Halloween, but a little bit more jacked up.
I would say so, because the three of you look like three cat women to me.
So we all read this comic book, The Wicked and the Divine, which is great, and it's basically a kind of contemporary, like if contemporary versions of these old gods existed, but they were like pop stars. That's kind of the basis of the comic. And one of the characters is the Morrigan, and she has three versions that come up in the comic book.
Okay.
We dressed up as the three versions of her.
I see.
So I think if I remember this picture correctly, like, so I'm in the middle and I have this long red wig on, and we have like we did a little bit of sewing ourselves, did a lot of makeup ourselves, all of that. So
and you have time to be a physician and write a best-selling book and put red wigs on and sew costumes.
yeah, like everyone has their thing they do in their downtime, or
well, why not combine them? Why not wear some of that into the ER?
Well, that's funny because one of my co-residents, so I'm a resident physician, so after you graduate from medical school, you are still in, you have an MD, but you're still in training.
Yeah, you're a rookie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We have to have a boss make sure that we're not screwing up. And so one of my friends who's also a resident, we both worked on Halloween, and she fully dressed up to go into the emergency department. And so she was a minion, and she like went all out, and it was amazing.
Well, yeah, unless somebody got a heart attack over it, then you'd have
I know, we were joking because we have to go to traumas, and I was like, if you're already just in a trauma and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then you see a minion pop up, it might be a little scary.
That's what I'm saying. But if blood spurted on your red wig, nobody would even notice.
Exactly. It's just part of the costume.
So what is this narrative medicine? What and the speculative fiction? What are these things?
So I'll start with narrative medicine, which I talk about a little bit in the book as well. It's so when we do medical school, and even like as a pre-med in undergraduate, we're very focused on the science, right? Of course we have to be. That's our most of our job. We're focused on the science,
everybody in the news claims nowadays, that they're focused on the science. Like wear one mask. No, wear two. Well, wear a dozen. No, they don't work at all. Wear them on your butt. So
well, like the thing with all the COVID stuff and why things keep changing, and I think it's a good thing it keeps changing, because it's such a, we've only known about this disease for a little bit over a year, and so science, isn't science is always improving on itself, and we get more data, and we can change what our recommendations are based on the more data.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, but right off the, I quit eating bats right away. I stopped that because I didn't want to take any chances.
But yeah, and we focus almost exclusively on the science when we're learning, right? But we don't really focus on the human connection part of our jobs, and we are a service industry, especially in the emergency department. I would say I think about interpersonal interactions as much, if not more, than the science of what I'm doing.
Now, do you think you would have this attitude had you not run into that one lady for a couple years in her office? Tell them about that.
I think, yeah. So that's what I talk about in the book. One of my mentors when I was in undergrad was a physician who I really looked up to, who had this kind of attitude.
But you walked in the office thinking,
yeah,
oh, this is better just be, I better not play my cosplay in front of this thing.
yeah. But she was like, yeah, she was just like, memorizing poetry and telling us she was great. But I mean, it definitely sparked the idea that like, oh, I don't have to play into this role that I assume doctors are. But I feel like I've run into quite a few people over my time that have a similar attitude that I really look up to. So I
wouldn't say it's pervasive.
It's not
in your profession, because they walk in and you have to run through so many patients in a hurry, and they're reading Inc. magazine as they forgot your name or they don't know your name. So it's not well known from the patient point of view, put it that way.
Yeah, it's really hard because especially like how medicine works right now, we have to see so many patients,
right.
and a lot of times the hospitals like they want us to see a lot of patients because that's how they get money,
right?
And that's not necessarily the best for the patient, so it's not really aligning in that way. And so as a doctor, our priority is the patient, but we have the hospital kind of at our back, saying like, this is what you have to be able to do. Yeah, so narrative medicine really is the practice of honing those skills to be able to be patient-centered in this like just as two humans, it in a way that doesn't get in the way of all of the medicine, the science that we have to do as well. So if you're better at it, then you can
see a situation where you get in trouble for that, because they're looking at your statistics. Well, Miss Scott, you're spending 28.2 minutes with a patient instead of 14.6. What's up with that?
Yeah. That's, I mean, you could see it. You could see it in that way, but I think the ultimate goal is that if you learn how to ask questions in a more patient-centered way, the patient will be more satisfied, and then at the end of the day, if they'll give feedback that's better, which is also good for the hospital, or if you get better at asking those questions and connecting quicker, then maybe at the end of the day you can get your answers faster because you're able to make that connection quicker.
Okay, so I got an old fart piece of advice for you as a physician that I got from an insurance executive I was sitting next to on a plane one time from a speaking engagement. And she told me, she said 90% of our malpractice claims are because the doctors just won't be nice to the patients. She told me that. She said if they would just be nice, 90% of the lawsuits and malpractice claims would not happen at all.
I kind of believe that too. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no connection there. Why should somebody stick up for you? I mean, if they're, I would like to homicide the last guy that worked on me. I mean, if it wasn't for I had a French guy with me, I had a hunting accident, and it would be such a great short story had I gotten shot. But no, I fell on a log, and I perforated my intestine, and I'm down in like the boondocks. Some, probably, traveling, probably guy rode in on a horse or something, and And he's telling me, you just take some aspirin and just sleep it off. You just got a strain. And I'm screaming like a baby. And the French guy with me almost gets arrested because we're making such a ruckus that they want to send me home with some aspirin. And so finally the next shift came in and the guy said, all right, get him an MRI, just shut everybody up. I'm bleeding out. and they rushed me to a trauma center to fix me, So yeah, that guy deserves some trouble. He could have killed me right there. So that's the balancing act you have. You want to spend time and do a good job, but the financial pressures have to be so heavy in many situations.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Yeah. And I think it's learning things like asking the one question that can get you a lot very far. And I assume both also in like litigation as well. What are you worried about? Because you can get a lot out of a patient. It's like, oh, you think it's like, because we're trained as in the emergency department to be, what is the thing that's most dangerous or going to kill you? And then what is the most common thing? And then what can I fix? So if someone comes in with a problem and you go through those and you're like, I don't think it's a problem. But then if you ask that one question, you can really just have a conversation, be like, oh, you think it's this. Let me tell you why I already know it's not. And then they'll leave happy.
Well, I would have left dead.
Well, yes. If they asked you that, you would say, I'm afraid that my bowels are perforated, and they'll be like, I wonder if we have actually proven that that's not true. So.
Well, what's kind of funny is they're dragging me out of the woods in 13 inches of snow. I'm screaming like a baby, and the worst part, actually, Reiko, is I swear I could hear a bunch of deer laughing as they were dragging me out of the woods. But another crazy thing had happened. They flopped me in the door of a hunting trailer, and I'm laying there waiting for the ambulance, and there's snow everywhere, and my head's getting really hot, and I'm thinking, oh my God, something's really crazy, and my head's like on fire. My head was right next to the propane stove. And almost caught my tassel cap on fire.
Oh no.
All right, so what's speculative fiction? What is that? Fiction is fiction, right? How can you speculate on fiction?
Speculative fiction is another word for science fiction fantasy. So it's fiction that is not based necessarily on like realistic aspects of our world. It has some sort of fantastical or
all right,
or like science fiction aspect to it. So it's speculating on how parts of our world work through fantastical elements.
Okay, all right, I can get that now. So this Fanocracy. So let's get into that deeper now. So your dad, yes, is a crazy fan of Grateful Dead and surfing and cars and stuff like that. You're a fan of Harry Potter, I hear.
Lots of things. So I think the best way to describe what I am a fan of is just storytelling in general. I get waves of being really deep into things.
Did you write 80,000 words about
yes, I did
Harry Potter?
I did write a novel, basically, that is a fan fiction based on the Harry Potter universe.
Is this common? The fan fiction is a common thing?
Oh, very common.
No,
yeah.
Man, am I out of touch, man?
Yeah.
All the books that you saw, I sent her a bunch of pictures of my libraries, folks. And because there's thousands.
Very jealous
of books here.
Of the setup too.
Yeah, but once you got here, they're all how-to books. There's one fiction book in my whole life I've read in the last 30 years. It was this buddy of mine's also a martial arts expert, and he was a sniper in the Army, and he was an attorney, prosecutor, and he drove a Dodge Durango. Well, why does this matter? Because he wrote a novel about an Army sniper who was a prosecutor that drove a Dodge Durango that went around killing pedophiles. so I thought, wait a minute, is this really fiction? What is this? But all my books are how-to books. But okay, so 80,000 words on fan fiction, that was on Harry Potter?
Yes, that one was on Harry Potter, but I've written fan fiction on a lot of different television shows, books, movies. So
Do people sell these or this?
no, so the whole purpose of fan fiction is that it's a community-based practice that you write, you post it online. There's multiple sites that you can post it, but the one that's used the most, at least in the English-speaking world, is Archive of Our Own, which is fan run, and is honestly like a really fantastic site, and that is like basically a library of fan fiction, and you can
and
post
it's called
your
what again? Archive of Our Own.
yes,
Okay.
or AO3 we say, and you can post it, you tag it with what fandom you're in, and anyone can read it and comment on it and like it, and so really like communities are built out of people who write in these fandoms, and these authors are I mean, can range from people who are beginning, just, practicing writing, taking their first steps into it, to people who are like successful published authors, like winning awards for their original fiction, who also write fan fiction.
Wow.
and do it in their free time because they enjoy it. So it's a wide range of people who can participate, but it's a really thriving community.
Just amazes me because I've written 25 books, but I don't believe I'm smart enough to write one piece of fiction because of character development and plot, and it all has to fit together and makes. Maybe I could do the speculative, just make up some weird crap, and but I doubt it. So Fanocracy, though. So you're a fan of all that stuff. Your dad's a fan of stuff. How can a business person use this? I know you have a really nice quote from Ronnie Dunn from Brooks and Dunn. He says it truly emphasizes the importance and the how-tos, this book of yours, that are necessary to maximize that all-important friendship. Because he says that's the biggest part of his career is, yeah, you can sing and you can, promote, but the biggest part is his fan base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I of course, that's like what I already said. I come from it as a fan more than someone as a business person, but I think that does, give me a different perspective that's helpful. And I think that what was frustrating me was a lot of these companies who didn't understand the people who were fans of whatever their product or service was, because oftentimes there are communities that are built around things that, like these products, and if the company doesn't understand the communities that are built, then they waste them. It's a resource that already exists, and if you alienate your fans by not understanding what they're doing on their own, then I think that's a fast way to lose customers.
And you have probably felt that yourself, right? If you're a fan of something and you didn't get treated, or you could see that they weren't taking care of you like they should. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. If like a lot of companies, are very protective over the rights of their like products, or and I mean, with it makes sense, but things like I talk about Photoshop a little bit in the book, or like Adobe as a company being like, you can't talk about Photoshop like this. This is the correct way to use the language. Meanwhile, tons and tons of people are posting YouTube videos on tutorials for Photoshop. And it's like, that's free advertising for your, these communities are like, this is how I use this. This is how, this is the easy tips to do that. And a company like Adobe shouldn't shut that down, because those are people who are using your product and talking about your product.
Yeah, and I've been around a long time, so I've seen a lot of this where in the beginning they were super cracking down, the record companies, on copyrighted music. And I'm not advocating, violating people's copyrights, but so they were starting to just crush people very violently, figuratively, legally. And then some of the executives started getting the idea like, oh man, this is not working. We're protecting all our stuff with machine gun nests, but now people hate us and won't buy our music. So they just started easing up on it quite a bit. I mean, you get the occasional this or that, but you're right. They are kicking the teeth of the person that just loves them, so.
Right, exactly. And something that I've been interacting with a lot recently has been K-pop. So I've been watching a lot of YouTube, like K-pop on YouTube, and it's a thing that a lot of people do.
Excuse me, 1 second.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I don't like you. Because I saw in your bio K-pop, and so I think, okay, I got to be a good interviewer. I got to go figure out what the heck that is. Is this some kind of cereal? What is that? I had no idea what K-pop was. So then I'm watching 11-minute videos, everything you need to know about K-pop, and so things that I did not want to know, Reiko.
Whole worlds that I am opening up to you.
Oh my God.
Yes, K-pop is Korean pop music, which is now a more global phenomenon over the past 20 years. But you may know about BTS, who's Billboard charting Dynamite came out this summer.
I know now because I had to watch this dumb video.
I mean, if you listen to the radio right now, you will hear some K-pop, whether you know it's K-pop or not. But
can you dance like all those kids?
I can't dance.
Yeah, you should do it in the emergency room. Yeah, do a little K-pop as a
definitely
therapy.
Can't dance. That is something that I have never been able to do.
Yeah, good day on the dance floor for me is if I don't hurt anybody.
Same.
Of course, then a good business for you in the ER.
But about the copyright, I was thinking about this recently because a lot of people on YouTube do K-pop reaction videos, because a big thing in K-pop is the music video and the dancing, and so it's a very visually integrated music.
And
industry.
They're selling fashion like crazy because of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, but if there were some companies are more harsh on the copyright than others, and so some people aren't able to post reactions to these music videos, and it's like, come on, these are people get their news or their updates on new releases through these people who do reaction videos, and how can you say no, you can't do reaction videos, because that's a huge way people are interacting with the work.
I think they'll figure that out pretty soon. So how can a typical small business person use Fanocracy, use the things that you teach in the book?
I mean, I feel like it very much depends on what your company is doing.
Well, I heard you're talking about an insurance company. That,
yeah, exactly.
That went crazy because of it, and you wouldn't think that's a K-pop, equal.
I mean, with that insurance company, they figured that the K-pop equal is their customers were huge fans of their cars,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they would consume, news, magazines, all of this other stuff related to the car. And so Haggerty Insurance just put out this highly this well-produced, YouTube videos and magazines about the cars to promote also their insurance. But it's not like they're just selling their insurance. They're providing more than just their product. They're saying, I understand that you guys are a community because you're coming together to celebrate these cars. We're going to help you with that by giving you all of these other resources to stay a community.
Yeah, they immersed themselves in the industry. I think in the book it said something about they went to over 100 different car shows and always had a presence and were involved in the whole thing.
Exactly. I think it's not forcing yourself into a situation or forcing yourself to or being just a salesman. I think you have to understand the community that you are selling to and how you can have a a place in that community that is not that is, that people will enjoy, or like it's
It's almost like at a tennis match, you see Rolex on the wall. They're there, they're all over the place, but they're not part of the tennis match. But they're always around, and so people buy Rolexes. So I noticed, I haven't read the whole book yet. I noticed in the first part of the book, there would be a chapter and it would have your name, and then another chapter would have your dad's name.
Mhm.
Is the whole book like that?
Yeah, so
That's so you didn't fight it out each chapter?
we tried we tried a couple things in the writing of the book. One being what we ended up with, which was we each wrote our own chapters, and then the other being we combined our voices and had like a neutral version that is both of us is one voice. It turned out that we have very, very different writing styles.
Yeah.
And there was no way that we could integrate them into something that made sense. So
What'd you do? Sneak in the speculative fiction in there a little bit?
Well, that's the thing. The way my dad writes is very like short sentences,
right. Boom,
to the
boom,
point,
boom, boom, boom.
exclamation
Yeah.
point.
That's why I like him so much. Yeah.
And then mine is coming much more from I write a lot of fiction,
right.
and so it's much more lyric. I don't want to call my own work lyrical, but it's longer sentences that are I care more about how like sound and word choice and all of that. And so I wrote some of my chapters much more like prose than like than a business book, I think. But I don't come from a business world, so.
Well, did it take you longer to write your part than him?
I don't think so. I think we were pretty equal
Okay.
in how fast we wrote, because it's just my style of writing, right? Like it's much easier for me to write like that than to copy my dad's style. Because I tried that when we were trying to do that, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't know how to write like my dad does.
Well, there's tons of good stuff in the book, but what one of the slivers that caught my eye was, and I've been a big proponent of this over many years, is actual physical proximity to people. You had an example of some famous guitar player came down and played right next to a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays with this COVID and the 6 feet rule, how are we going to work with that?
I think there's a few ways. It depends. So, I think the idea of proximity, I think we're understanding now, is much more of an emotional proximity when you can't physically be close to somebody. So, the few good things that have come out of COVID for me are that I have become a lot closer to the people, my friends in my life that are physically far away, right? So even without COVID, I have, friends in California, Minnesota, that I wouldn't be able to see at all. But now it's just so common to Zoom and to have these group chats that are much more active because people can't go outside, that I feel like I'm much closer to those friends than I would have been otherwise. And that makes me happy. And I think that part of that also that companies have been able to jump onto in a good way is that idea that like, oh, you can be close to people who are physically far away from you now because we're forced to have that technology. And so things like being able to do these remote games and through Zoom, or these like hangouts through anything. So I think that makes that proximity happen, that there's an emotional proximity now that didn't exist before.
Yeah, in some cases it could be better because, you go years without talking to anybody, but now you can do it easily and make that emotional connection. So we got to take a brief sponsor break. When we come back, we'll ask Reiko what's a typical day look like for her. She got some craziness to tell us about in the ER. And also, I'm going to do a little research on her because she's a young woman, and I heard something on the news. I want to ask her if she thinks it's true. So, folks, about 23 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head, in that people like me were charging 50 or 100 grand up front to teach small business people what we knew. Well, I knew a lot of these people, and you give them 50 grand up front, they'd be hiding out in some emergency room somewhere so they wouldn't have to help you. So, although the bill might be 50,000 when they get out, so that might not be the best place to hide. I thought, that's too risky for those small businesses and not really fair. So I said, I'm going to turn it on its head. So I charged people an entry fee, and then I tied my success to their success. So for me to get my 50,000, they had to make clear net 200,000. Well, guess what? People love this, and 23 years and 1,700 plus students later, it's still going strong, and it's the longest running, most unique, most successful internet marketing and digital marketing mentor program ever. And I have no trouble saying that, because I've been daring people for years to put their program up against mine, and line for line, and let's see who wins. Because number one, we charge an entry fee and we tie our success to your success. Number two, everything is one-on-one. Nobody at my level will even talk to you, let alone teach you anything. So myself and my whole staff only work with you one-on-one. We don't like the group stuff where if you're talking to somebody advanced, the beginners are lost. If you're talking to the beginner, the advanced people are bored. So no, it's all one-on-one. And then you have an immersion trip, of course, when COVID's done, at the Great Internet Marketing Retreat Center in Virginia Beach. It's a massive mansion here. We have our own TV studio, and we shoot marketing videos for you. And that's the only thing that's group, but it's only about 5 people average. So you get plenty of personal attention and get immersed in this, and you actually see the inner workings of a distance learning facility and a internet marketing company that's working out of a home, basically. Then you get a scholarship to the school that I told you about earlier, which some people have gifted to young people in their life, nephews, nieces, grandchildren, their own kids. And we have one guy spent 80 grand on his daughter's crappy education, and she's working a crappy job. He joins the mentor program, gifts the school to her, and within 4 months, she's making $6,000 a month as a side hustle and still hasn't even graduated. So this is real hardcore skills that every business on earth needs. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. No high pressure. We're happy to talk to you about your future online, to keep you out of this mess that COVID has caused, and into the future, give you kind of an insurance policy that you'll still be able to make a lot of money, even if you can't sit in traffic somewhere making somebody else rich, was what we're all against. All right, great. We're back with Reiko Scott. She's our main event today. Reiko is a physician and a best-selling author, and I don't know, she dresses up for some reason. I don't know why people do it, but it's Halloween all the time for her. So Reiko, give us some crazy, I know there's got to be some stuff that happens in the emergency room that's kind of wild.
Yeah. Yes, I work at an emergency department.
Tell us what hospital. We don't want to
know. In Boston.
Okay.
You can imagine how maybe you can't imagine how crazy it is. I can't.
All we saw is TV is the stuff that happens on TV.
It's funny. I have some friends who are very into watching ER, and they're like, does this actually happen? Not the doctor romances. That's not as much of a thing. Right. But I can't say I've ever seen ER, but I mean, like the other day I pulled a cockroach out of someone's ear. So
no. Oh man. Now that is interesting.
Yeah.
Were they using it for instead of a Q-tip? What I mean,
it just crawled in there, and someone came in. It was
from the hospital or from home?
From home.
Oh,
Someone
okay.
from someone came in with their chief complaint being, I think something crawled into my ear, and we looked into her ear, and indeed
Did
something
you,
had crawled into her
did you
ear.
laugh?
I mean, I was a
You
little
wanted to,
bit
didn't you?
I mean, it sounds really uncomfortable, and I mean
Was
it
it
happens
live still?
enough. Oh, it was alive,
Oh.
yes. It happens enough that there is a process that like is that we have to pull things pull live things out of people's ears. So um yeah, it's I mean it's a whole range of emotions that you go through when you're working in an emergency department. And we know from the like kind of absurd with a someone with a bug in their ear, to like, we see death in the
Well,
emergency
yeah,
department
and
quite often. So and it's like it's whiplash from one to the other, and so you have to kind of get used to the going from a trauma room to seeing a patient who just kind of has like a twisted ankle, to like seeing someone who has terminal cancer. It's like it's emotionally very
roller
there's a
coaster would be a good word,
yeah,
probably.
exactly, yeah.
So do you see the dark humor somewhat? Because I used to, when I first started speaking, I was speaking about humor in the workplace and how nurses and first responders and police officers have a behind the scenes dark humor to cope with some of the nastiness that they see. Do you see much of that?
We do, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Don't
it's
tell us about it.
no. I
Yeah.
mean, what I will say about it is that's what's hard, right? And you have to kind of code switch while you're working, because the only way that we can really get through a day, especially when we're in the depths of COVID. I was working in the ICU, and it's really, really hard to see all your patients die. Um, and like feeling that no matter what you do, that there's nothing more that you can do for these patients, and you can't have the family visit because of COVID and all of that. And so the only way for us as providers to emotionally get through that is a bit of dark humor, because how else are we going
Right.
to like
Right.
be able to laugh? But we also understand that it would be very hard for anyone on the outside to hear any of that. And so being able to understand your audience, and how much of something that you're saying is for you and how much of it is for somebody else is important.
Well, so I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but I mean, there's lots of jokes going around that feel like they're somewhat based in reality. One of the jokes there was a guy that blew himself up in an RV in Nashville or Tennessee a couple months ago, and it blew the whole street up basically. And so the joke going around was, oh yeah, he died of COVID. And that some coroner came on TV the other day and said, yeah, this guy had 3 bullet wounds in his chest, and she looked at his chart and it said died of COVID. So the general public's kind of we're getting so much misinformation every channel. I work out of my home, so I'm sitting here all day watching TV. There'll be 10 highly credentialed doctors on in the course of a day. 5 of them say one thing. 4 of them say one thing. 4 of them say the exact opposite, and 2 of them say we really don't know. So the public is like, what the heck is going on? And depending on what state you're in, you're closed down for the same thing that another state is open is. So it's just been a devastating thing for the world, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And here's the thing too, because the how COVID is affecting people is like, yes, the disease itself is can range from being asymptomatic to killing you. And it's not just, the I've seen like a 28-year-old with no past medical
Mhm.
history have like her heart stop because of it.
Geez.
So it's not that anyone should feel like that they're like immune to it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not just like what COVID as a disease is doing, because people are losing their jobs, people are not able to go outside, people aren't able to see other people. What the consequences of that too are, people like depression is rising. People like we see more suicide or suicide ideation in the hospital as well. And at the same time, the psychiatric help is not there's not enough of it to be able to take all of the patients that they need. And so I've seen people who have passed because they weren't able to control their addictions during this time and all of that. So it's like at the same, like it is like, oh, it's obviously they didn't die of the disease if they died of an overdose, but in a way that it is part of the sequela of
exacerbated it.
Yeah.
But so many people were like, oh, you're leaving the liquor stores open as essential stuff and we can't go to school. So it's just a crazy chaos.
Yeah. The thing about the liquor stores is actually interesting because if you close the liquor stores, then people would die of alcohol withdrawal. So
withdrawal, yeah, that's what I mean. But it's it doesn't look good on the surface.
It doesn't look good on the surface.
Go to church,
yeah.
But you can go. They're arresting people to go to church, so it's crazy. But so I want to end on something that's it's even more sad than this, Reiko. It's going. Right? I saw on the news that millennial women are having trouble finding guys to marry because they're all soy boys, can't do anything, and they're happy to go fabric shopping with them, but they don't really want to marry them. Do you think that's true?
Well, I can tell you that I am currently married to a wonderful man who has just finished a very lovely blanket that he hand sewed out of fabric that he dyed himself from from natural materials. I don't know how to sew. He's very good at it. So I can say that I enjoy that sort of a man.
Okay, but you're a doctor and a best-selling author and a Superwoman cosplayer. So, but the average woman out there, do you think that this has got any validity? I mean, why?
The why women are getting nowadays? Married later is probably because we have more ability to go to be successful in the careers that we want to be successful in. If you have more of a choice than just getting married and having kids, then a lot of people will take that choice. So it's not necessarily that they don't want to have families, but they want to set up their careers and have that also after they set up their careers. And so if you're traveling a lot to, like a lot of my friends, because have a professional career, you went to undergraduate, you went to graduate school, and then of course I have to go to residency, which is another move, or like if you get a PhD, then you have to do a postdoc. So all of those things are reasons that, you're not in one place for a long time. And I think a lot of those women do wait a little bit longer to have a family.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to take that as a no comment on my original question. So thanks so much for coming on. I'm so glad Dad told me about you, and they should go buy Fanocracy, right?
Yeah, please buy
Where
Fanocracy
should they buy
and
it?
tell us what you think. I recommend going to your local bookstore and support your local bookstore.
If you can find one, yeah.
There's great resources online too. If you just search for local bookstores that will mail you books, because a lot of them are working remote right now as well. But if not, we're on Amazon, and we're on like everywhere.
If you just search us, that name, nobody's going to mistake that book for another book because of your dad was very smart on naming things properly with newsjacking and Fanocracy.
Yeah, and on our website you can find where to
yeah, what's the website? Is it fanocracy.com?
It is.
FanOCRACY?
Exactly.
Fanocracy.com. We'll have that in the show notes for him like we did for your dad's episode. So thanks so much. Go back, go home, and go save some more lives.
Thank you for having me.
All right, it was a blast. Thank you.